Morning everybody, Phil Beckwith, the Professional Painter and Decorator, coming back at you. Right, we're on the flat renovation project, and in this front entrance hall you've probably seen previous videos where I've been painting the ceiling and prepping the walls. Now's the time. We've got panelling to put up. So I'm gonna give it a go. This is proper DIY, Phil Beckwith, never done joinery, stuff like this before, but how hard can it be? This panelling is really popular at the moment, and I often joke about it. Is this panelling the new Artex of the future? What do we say Artex is? It's a liquid texture that's applied by a decorator stroke plasterer. It dries and then you paint it. You use a stippler, use a brush. You get Spanish effects, you get broken leather effects, you get swirls. You've seen it. New homes were notorious for having it in the 80s and 90s, and probably even now. Probably easier than skimming out a ceiling. But that, by the by, we're not on about Artex, we're on about panelling. I've got 4 packs of panelling from B&Q, and the panelling I've got is the modern wall panelling. It goes up to a dado height. This is the Cheshire moulding. A pack cost me just under, I think it's £23, £24. I've got a trade point discount card, so I've actually got 10% off, which is great because we like a discount. And I bought 4 packs. So I'm going to give it a go. Now it's straightforward, MDF strips, you put it on the wall. How hard can it be? I'm not sure. But off the back of fitting that, I bought myself a nail gun. Now, I'll give a shout out to the restoration couple. They've got a huge channel. If I got my channel as big as that, that'd be ace. The restoration couple, and they were using a nail gun, and I thought I've got to get a nail gun for putting panelling up, because they did the same sort of thing, put panelling up, use nail gun. Now, nail guns are silly money. You can get a cheap nail gun for about 50, 60 quid if it's running off a compressed air pump compressor. You can get ones that plug in off the mains cheap, just over £100, and then if you want a cordless one or a gas canister cartridge nail gun, you're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5. Sky's your limit. Better quality, the better mate. Yeah, I didn't want to spend that, but I did see, we're laughing, Aldi, their special buys, DIY specials, cordless, battery charge up, nail gun, £79.99. For that price, it's worth a punt. I'll see how we go. This Cheshire moulding will be stuck on with some, I call it liquid nails, just instant grab adhesive, water based. You find that water based doesn't skin up and set too quickly, so you can position it in place. So I'm going to use a bit of liquid nails, shall we call it, and then tack it in place with a nail gun. Straightforward. I've got some tools with me. I've got a spirit level, I've got a pencil, I've got a tape measure, I've got a mitre saw, I've got a mitre box as well, I've got a duster brush, I've got my trusty for wallpaper hanging, and there's probably a link there if you want to know about wallpaper hanging with a laser liner. I've got this just to try and keep the line all the way around the room at the same height. So hopefully I've got the tools to do the job. All the gear, no idea, particularly on this. But what I do want to mention is something that I saw on Instagram. When you put in particularly MDF panel mouldings, I'm not taking off the skirting board. So literally, if this was my skirting board, the panel moulding would be going straight on top of it. I wasn't too happy doing that. So I'd seen on Instagram where a joiner said you put a spacer piece underneath, a piece of wood, strip of wood. So I've managed to get some really fine strip moulding bead. It's quite flat, I'll just move it around, 2.4. You can see it's not, can you see that? I'll try and focus it. It's not very, there you go, you can probably just see it. And it's got a bit of a shape to it, look. My plan is this will go and sit on the top edge of the skirting. That will then give me a little bit of a riser to put the moulding of the MDF panelling on top of that. So we're not putting the panelling straight directly on top of the skirting top edge. That makes sense, doesn't it? And hopefully it'll just give it a little bit of a quality feel to it. Ooh, feel the cloth, sir. Feel the cloth, feel the quality. So that will be going over the top edge of the skirting, and that's what I'm going to do first. So I'm going to go off camera, I'm going to cut these to length, get them on, stick them in place with the liquid nails. I won't pin these because if I don't like it, I'll pull them off. But hopefully this will just give me a bit of a riser, and that bit of a shape, you can just see it look rounded, will give a nice feel, I'll say feel, quality feel to leaving the skirt into the moulding. I want to mean leaving, I mean like the transition, that's a better word, transition. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this on, I'm going to mitre the corners with a little cut, and when I join up this as well, a bit like when I'm doing coving, and there's a link to actually fitting coving, I'm not going to butt two ends together. I'm going to do a proper mitre cut, so they just, instead of being like that, they'll chamfer, a mitre joint. So they cut on an angle and then slide together. I'll show you when I've got them on, and hopefully it'll make sense. Once I've got that on, I'll get on with the moulding panelling. Now, I've got a bit of a dilemma because I've got an external corner just there and I didn't know what to do with it. Because if you've got, I tell you what, I'll come back and discuss that later. Because I like to keep the panelling widths equal. I'll discuss it later. See you later on. Interjecting this video with some top tips. Top tip Tuesday we'll call it. You know when you've got one of these cork guns and you've got your cork and you say your cork, and you've got your cork tube. When you cut off on an angle the actual nozzle, if you do a little bit of a V-cut, I don't know whether you'll see that. If you do a bit of a V-cut in the top, can you see that? Come on, come on. Yeah, you can see that. If you do a little bit of a V-cut in the top, when you actually apply the adhesive or cork, whatever you're doing, to your piece of wood or whatever you're trying to stick, it gives a bit of a raised ridge as it's going along. So it's putting on the adhesive, we'll call it the adhesive, but it's like icing on a cake. It just lifts it up slightly. Can we try and get that? Yeah, you can see it just there. It lifts it, so you're not smearing it over the surface and not getting any adhesive on the surface. It's actually giving you a little bit of a thicker edge across the middle, and that's because you've cut a V out and it's allowing it to be raised up. And that's what I'm doing to allow this to stick to the surface. And if you can just see what I'm doing here, square end there is going straight up to this door frame, and I'm just literally just sticking it against the wall. Now thankfully, spirit level across that, the skirting is spirit level true, and I'm just sticking this in place because hopefully when I get the main panelling on and when I cork up, that will hold it in place as well. So we're doing good. And when I was saying I don't butt the strips of wood together, what I do, I cut them on a, you see that? I cut them on a mitre. Use the mitre box, cut it on an angle and do the reverse, so it's like a negative and a positive. And then instead of being butt jointed together, they actually fit nicely like hand in glove instead of being buttered up. That makes sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. I'll show you a picture in a minute. This is what I mean when I say I mitre them and don't butt joint them, and it makes it a lot neater. Just got to stick it down. Makes it a lot neater to get it flush across. That's nice. Hello my lovelies, we're cracking on. We're cracking on nicely. Covered in dust. I've got now the panelling kit out. And it's a nice piece of panelling kit, because it's the shaker, it's really a shaker style. It's a 9mm thickness and width, top of my head I've forgotten. The width of the strips are 63 wide, 63 millimeters, so 6.3 centimeters. And if you want that in old money, we're looking at 2.5 inch. 2.5 inch. So what you do is, the principle of this is, I've got that bit of a bead strip on, which that looks nice. It's just lifted up the panelling kit. So I put that on top of the skirting. You've seen that, kept that basic, done the mitre joints, got them nice. I'm just putting now the base rail, the bottom, going all the way around. And they say in the kit, fit all the base rail first, then measure where you want the top rail, put that on, and then you do the filling in with your wall strips where you want them to be, i.e. cutting. So depending on the height of the rail will depend on what length I'll cut these to. We'll come on to that on the next section. But in this kit from B&Q, it's nice because, take it, this is the top one. If this is the top one, it comes with a moulding strip, and turn it round. Comes with a moulding strip that fits nicely onto, and you'll see that, nicely onto the top of the rail, which will make it a nice feature, and that's what I want. If you don't know about chair rails, dado rails and things like that, height wise, from the floor, approximately 900 to 1100. Back in the olden days, it was a rail to protect your wall from the backs of the chairs rubbing up against your wallpapers or finish paint. So, covered in dust. So yes, gauge it to the height you want. Visually, you've got to get it where you want it. Unless you've got chairs that you want to make sure don't rub the wall and you do it at that height. But I will be pulling the carpet back and I will be measuring off the base of the floor up. Now, I've actually got some markers on the wall. I don't know, you can just see one there, and that's at 900 high. And I think it's 900 anyway. I'll just check. It's at 1,000. That's at a metre. Now, quite possibly, I will put the rail on that line, and I'll go with that height. And that might be all right. Once I've got that, then I measure the distance between there, and that's the length of the filling pieces that I need. So we'll come on to that when we come on to it, and then I will tell you how you work out your spacing. That's tricky, get your calculator out. As I'm putting these lengths on, again, I keep going about, I'm not butt jointing, I'm actually cutting them on a, well, they're 45 degree. So that then fits against the piece that's down there that are cut on the 45 degree as well. And that makes a nicer finish, sliding them up to each other. And then once they're up and we come to painting it, I will be priming it all out and then I will fill them, get them neat. That makes a nicer job than trying to put two ends together. A bit like when I do the coving. You've seen that video. So when you come to fit this on, I've got the mitre cut, you can see that. I've got my liquid nails, whatever you want to call it, adhesive, holding it in place, and I'm just lining it up with the other mitre so it's all nice and neat. Now if there is a bit of a step in it, not, well, okay, say step, I'm going to say a bit of a, it's not there. If there's a bit of a gap there on the cut, doesn't matter because that will be filled. So now you get your nail gun, the one from Aldi, press it on, in place, hold it where you want it, making sure that's lined up, we're all right with that. That's gone in. I'll do some more. Looking good. Another top tip as we're going along. When you've cut an edge or an end, I've just got a little fine sanding rubbing block. I'll just knock off any furriness so it's a neat edge ready for fitting. full of useless information, aren't I? That's not useless. Getting really excited. It's not taken me very long to get these strips going around the room like that, all across the bottom on that bit of a riser that I did. That nail gun, fingers crossed, I had a couple of little issues with it only because I wasn't putting enough pressure onto the surface. I'll do a proper review on it when I've done the room, because doing about 6 nails out of it, it's not really a review, is it? A review. But it's very handy. Just on a full length, I'm probably doing 3 pins, on a shorter length 2, with the liquids contact adhesive at the back. But I've done my angles and I've even mitered those. I've got them all the way around now, and I'm going to start putting the top rail on, which that mark that made measuring off the floor height, because it's an apartment, concrete floors, spirit level true is brilliant actually on the top of the skirting. I can't believe it, brilliant. I can't go wrong, can I? So from the top of this MDF, I'm going to measure 80 centimetres, 800 millimetres up, and that will be the bottom. If I can just get a piece of offcut. That was measuring at 1,100 centimetres off the floor. I'm going to measure 80 all the way around. I've even got a laser to help me, and I'm going to put that rail at that height, which suits me. Not low, I think that's too small, but there is just right. Do you think? We'll have a go. I've marked it on the wall at 1,100 centimetres up. Now, my idea was probably going above that. I've actually gone round and checked it, and I think that might be a bit high to place the strips above it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go below it. So we're going to mark it at 800, and that will be my top edge. I'll spirit level it, get the laser on it, and we'll go at that height, and I think that is just about spot on. And then once we paint it, I can just fill in that area there. That looks too high up, that looks just right. Let's crack on. So just about to get these vertical strips on. Now remember, I've got the rail on, and the distance between the rail bottom and the top of the bottom of the rail, I've measured it all the way around. It's 29 inches. So these strips that are more than 29 inches, I'm going to cut at 29 inches. So each one will fit underneath. Quite simple, hopefully. 29 inches, I don't know what that is in new money. I'm just rounding it up to figures that I can see on the tape measure that I can understand. And it's all the distance all the way around in there is 29 inches. Cracking. Doing well. I've only had to go and buy another pack of, bought 4 packs, needed 5, only 2 metre lengths. Right, we've got the top rail on, you know we've got the bottom, and now we're going to work out the spacing between, well, this wall anyway, all the way from the door all the way down. Now how you do this, you measure your wall from that end all the way down to here, and I've measured that. I've got the measurements on the wall so I don't forget. It's 3,770 millimetres, so 3.77 metres. How you work it out, let's keep it into millimetres because that'll make it a lot simpler. We've got 3,770 minus the width of that, which is 63. You work that out, get your calculator, that gives you 3,707. So 3,707. Now, look at your wall and decide how many panels you want. Now I've looked at this and I've spaced it out. I didn't know whether to go for 6 panels or 5. I'm going to go for 5 because I think 6 might be a bit cluttered. So you take your measurement of 3,707, and your measurement will be slightly different, but whatever your measurement is, you can do it the same way. So you take your measurement, which is your length minus a strip, you divide that by 5 because that's how many panels I want, and I get then 741.4. You're following me, aren't you? From that figure, deduct one more strip, so another 63, and then that will give you the spacing between each strip. Now the spacing I've got is 678.4, so 678.4, and once I get the end panel on there, like the first strip, I will be measuring 678.4 as near as I possibly can, and by the time I get down to the other end, we should be still with the same gap. Won't hold my breath, I bet it'll run out slightly, and it, well, visually to the eye, you're not going to see it down at the bottom of the door if it does creep slightly a different size. Now, my dilemma, my problem I've got is I've got a wall this side which is a bit shorter, but I'm still going to go with 5 panels, so I'll measure that one out accordingly and do the division of the 5 and then take off, and I'll get a figure that will be very similar, but optically you'll see 5 panels, and if it's a few millimeters out per panel size, unfortunately I'm a DIYer doing paneling. Yeah, but I think we'll be fine. The other thing that I've got to bear in mind is, can you see them there? This end external corner, I'm going to let them go as they are. There'll be a strip in the corner, a strip on the outside, and whatever size that is will be what it is. And the same with this side. That distance between those two is a little bit more than what the panelling is over this side, but optically I don't think you're going to notice it. So I'm going to get these on, see how they are, and then we'll come back and have a conflab about it. On to the external corner now, and this is going to blow you away. It's going to blow you away. As you can imagine, angle runs out slightly, so I just have to go with it. But how I've done these corners, I've not wanted to lose any of the thickness, I mean the width of the actual panelling. Now, sometimes what you'll do is get a piece like that and butt it up, can you see, like that? But then that makes this side narrower, if that makes sense. So what I've done, I've actually moved it, so I've done it like that, because I've not been able to, oh, you can't see it. So I've stood it off by the thickness and put the other one up to it, so they've actually, complicated, isn't it? Complicated. So instead of doing it like that, and then that makes that side narrower, I've actually brought it away on the wall, so it's literally touching the Harris edges, you know, the sharp edges, butting them up like that. So you can see it's like that instead of being like that, and that's how I've done the corners. I'm happy with that because it keeps the distance the same. Now coming to the external here, I've cut these lengths and they go up against there, but what I'm going to do is put it up against that metal trim. It's any time you use the word trim, the metal trim where the plasterer's done the angle, and I'm going to put a quadrant bead on that corner to neaten it off. Is that blowing your mind? And then this piece goes up against there. I'm going to get it right. Are you like a wedge? I don't know if you can see that. A wedge. And where that wedge is, that quadrant fits in that space. So it'd be like that. How exciting. Let me show you that a bit closer. You see that? I hope so. So that's what I'm going to do now, and get it on, and then I'll show you it finished. Well, that corner anyway. Drop it a bit, drop it to bits. don't know whether you can see what I've done there. I put a bead of the adhesive down on that angle, and now I've squeezed both sides of the verticals together because that quadrant was the same thickness, 9mm. So what I've done now, I've just squeezed the two sides together so we virtually flush. Probably go a little bit more. So it's flush with the quadrant, and the edges of the MDF are right up against that quadrant, and it's nice and neat. Now I know, let's just check spirit on these. Just a fraction out on that side. Spot on. Spot on the facing one there. But this edge there, just a fraction out, which we're not going to worry about against this door. Nobody's going to really see that. That is more of a case because when they did the plastering, that's not true on there. It's alright higher up, but as you came down, it's alright there. But down at the bottom here, we're running out slightly. So I'm quite happy. So if I can get you in to show you that. Not bad for an amateur, I don't think. Let me show you the mitre joints as well. Ooh, a bit zoomed in on me. You see that mitre joint? We don't go flush, we mitre them, and that gives you, that's nearly smooth as a baby's bottom. And then when I get a little bit of filler in there and sand it down, that'll be perfect. Same with this side. The mitre, it's a mitre. Pleased with that, and I'm pleased with that corner there. So stop holding me up, let me crack on. I want to put the top bead on now, which is just a case of mitering some more angles and just clipping it on the top. Bit of liquid nails, and might use the nail gun. I have to say the nail gun's been brilliant. That 70 quid, 79.99 from Aldi has been well worth the money. Well worth the money. Right, just doing the top finishing trim. Again, that's the only time you need to use the word trim, because that's what it's going to be, trim. Just place it on top, I'll liquid nails it on, and I'll pin it in place. So I'll get that done, and let's have a look in a bit. Now then. What was the name of that bloke that did Now Thens? Oh, give us some comments, I've forgotten. There's somebody, isn't there, that did Now Then. I think he was on the radio. Now then. Anyway, I put my hands up. No way am I a joiner. But if you've got practical skills, fitting a panelling kit isn't going to be beyond your capabilities. I've done it. Really, I'm actually quite impressed how it's looking, and I'm quite chuffed how I've done it. I've done mitres, I've not done butt joints, I've done mitres. So the mitres on the pieces being joined up feel really nice. Same with the clapping, the trim edge around the top. I've mitered them so they slightly overlap, and then they fit nicely. They really fit nicely. All the way around. Mitres, really done well. I think I've done well. My only negative was I had to go and pick up an extra moulding kit, panelling kit. So that took me to 5. Now, the 5th moulding kit had MDF toppers, and I'll bring it round here. MDF toppers instead of the pine softwood. Well, I'll say pine softwood, it's a softwood. That didn't matter. The only thing is, it's going to be a beggar to flipping paint. That's on another video, by the way. We're going to be painting this on another video. But this video is actually fitting the moulding, panelling, shaker style panelling kit. And I don't think I've done bad at all. You saw how I did that external corner there. Put a bit of quadrant on it. The spacing, I'm quite happy with the spacing. Can't do much with that. We've gone for 5 panels either side. But because the walls are slightly different in length, they're going to be a fraction. I'll say these are going to be a fraction different from that side to that side, but the blind man on the galloping horse isn't going to notice that. The only other thing is that end panel is a bit wider. What would you have done with that? How else would you have done that? I don't think, I'm happy enough with that. I don't think there's any other way you could have done it to get the same sort of spacing, or else all you'd have done is spaced it with a panel section there and then brought it all the way around, and I don't think you really want to be doing that. So all in all, I'm quite pleased. Let's just bring you down onto that. There's going to be a little bit of filling just there to get it neat, not a problem. And across the top, once we've got some paint on, that'll all be painted. So what do I think of this? What is it, just under £24 B&Q panelling kit? I don't think it's bad at all. If you've got a saw, if you've got, the nail gun was brilliant. If you're wanting the review on that, there'll be a review on that before this video goes out, so the review's already there. I was impressed. It saved me a lot of time, and also it looks neat. Few little hiccups with it, but you'll hear about that in the review. But other than that, the liquid nails, which I went for water-based because it doesn't skin up when it's exposed to the air, and it gave me a little bit of working time that I could just manipulate and move the bits of panels where I needed to be. One thing I did do is, once I knew what the sizes, let's bring it down. Once I did know what the sizes of these panels were, I did cut an off-cut strip so I could use that as the spacing bar, and it worked. I think it ran out slightly because I was looking at 678 millimeters 0.4. So that 0.4, by the time you've gone from one side of the wall to the other, was creeping. So you might find that this end panel down here is slightly different to the one there, but fraction, you're not going to notice it. And for a DIYer like myself doing this panelling kit, I'm happy. I'm happy. I told you how to do all the spacing. So I'm going to say there's some videos coming up there. Please click and like, subscribe. Next time you're going to see this room is we're going to start painting this. Flat renovation, we're moving on. We're doing well.